Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is the Module 2 discussion feedback that I'm going to talk about. And this mixed economic system, I really like that they've included this index this semester. The last time I taught this class was last year, fall semester, and they didn't have this. So I'm excited that they have added that in. We'll take a look at that. So, and so the discussions is here is a free market, mixed, or planned economy. And so we obviously have, we're a mixed economy, obviously, because we have some things that are purely planned economic systems. Now, the interesting thing is, growing up in the United States, I thought we were just a free market economy. I thought we were, like Adam Smith said in The Wealth of Nations, this laissez-faire, like where the government didn't seem to be too involved. However, that is just not the case if we look at some things. So some of the first things that we look at, we have things like food stamps and Medicare for the people who really can't provide for themselves. So that's the first thing. So we understand that. But then there's other things that we maybe take for granted that we don't think about, like education. Well, elementary education in the United States is free. In other countries, like I understand in Brazil, that the elementary education you have to pay for, and then college is free. And so we've just had this discussion in the United States about the student loan forgiveness. And so now there's another thing that I didn't realize until recency, well, within like the last 10 years, is the United States military. It's a total socialist apparatus, because we don't expect the military. We expect them to protect us, but we're not expecting them to go make any money. We're not expecting them to go invade a country. I mean, that's not what they're there for. And so a lot of the military budget goes to just pay people. And so that's where, and we could look that up. Let's see, what percentage the U.S. economy is military. Yeah, this isn't a very good graph. I should look this up. But anyway, just take into account that the military is something that we all have to pay for. I mean, roads and things like that, that's all kind of a socialist thing. We all pitch in and the roads get done, and we don't really have a whole lot of say over what's happening with that. So the United States is really a mixed economy. We like to talk about the freedoms and things that we have, but another interesting thing in the United States is we think we own property. And so you'd say, so I've had students from China in the class, and so I've asked them, I mean, how does the government, well, like, the government just gives you property and then you basically pay rent on that property. Well, here in the United States, it's really the same, because we pay taxes. If you don't pay your property tax, they're going to kick you off your property. And I don't know of a state or anywhere in the United States where you don't have to pay property tax. So, and when I say the government owns, because we, the people in the United States, are really part of the government. So we really, the government, or we, the people, own the property. So it's, I mean, an interesting concept to think about. But that's another reason why we are not a completely free economy. So I like this, the different, one of the things, oh, where is it? Who is the one? That Maria Warner here, I'm really going to give kudos to Maria for looking outside of just the class for this discussion. I really like that Maria has found this article, this UK essays, and that you can you can go over the discussion in here with what is happening with the economy in the UK. So this is really good. Now, the other interesting thing is about Mexico. Someone brings up Mexico as a developing economy. And what I think is really interesting as we look at is we can look at Korea. Now, Korea was probably farther behind Mexico in the 1970s. So Clayton Christensen, who was the dean of the Harvard Business School, wrote a book, co-authored a book before he passed away recently, that was called The Prosperity Paradox. And he talks about that he was in South Korea in the 1960s, and he said it would be, the way he described it, a third world economy. There really wasn't any hope for growth. There wasn't anything going on. And I would say now, or even by the 1990s, Korea had caught up with the United States in being a first world country, and their infrastructure now is more advanced than the United States. So if you ever go to Korea, it's amazing. Well, and I was in Korea 30 years ago, and I was amazed then at their level of infrastructure. And I was just in Seoul, but it was amazing, the public transportation and everything, and high density housing areas like that will have good public transportation, but it is way better than New York. And because I've been in New York and San Francisco, Los Angeles, places like that, and Seoul, South Korea, their traffic or their public transportation system is so much more convenient than in all the cities, than any city I've been in the United States. So what I think is interesting as we bring in the concept of Mexico is so close to the United States, but here they are, they're the 16th largest economy in the world, and yet they still have problems. With poverty. Still in the United States, we have lots of jobs, or I shouldn't say lots of production. It goes to Mexico because Mexico, their people are not making as much as the United States. And so, interesting concept that they're so close to the United States, but are not on parity with what's going on in the United States. So, yeah, there are lots of things that are about mixed economy. I mean, the interesting thing, people like to complain about the control of alcohol here in Utah, but I've lived in other states where the control of alcohol is more extreme. Like when I lived in South Carolina, selling alcohol on Saturday or Sunday is against the law in South Carolina. Now, there are places that they will let the local, like the counties vote on those types of things, but still, like, they can't sell alcohol. I mean, it was funny to go into a convenience store and they've got like chains over the beer. And so I haven't seen anything like that here in Utah. But there's, and one of the things too is there are states like in, I think it's Kentucky, where they make Jack Daniels. Wherever they make Jack Daniels, they cannot sell alcohol in that county. So it's a dry county, which is, I don't think there's any dry counties in Utah. But there's all kinds of weird things going on that the government is completely taken out of the free market economy, like cigarettes, for instance. You cannot transport cigarettes across county state lines and sell them in another state. They call that bootlegging. And you might say, who would want to do that? Well, South Carolina, you can buy cigarettes really cheaply. And when I was living in South Carolina, one of my friends told me, if you loaded up a semi truck of cigarettes in South Carolina, just bought them retail and went to New York and sold those cigarettes, you could make $1 million profit. So it would crazy. And so, yeah, the government controls a lot of things that are going on in the United States. So just think about that as we're thinking about the mixed economies. And then I just want to look at this, just have you look at these. Here's the ranking. And if you scroll up to the top, there's these different things like this economic freedom. I've got some different countries on here. Singapore, interesting to look to see how economically free they are. And for some reason, and I don't know why, but they're headed on the downslope. And then I've put Taiwan in here. And you can see how they're kind of going. And then you've got Denmark here that's going moderately free and getting a little bit better. And then we've got the United States here, this yellow line, which is also swinging down, similar to what we see up here with Singapore. And then this pink line down at the bottom is the world. But then you can check to see property rights. Interesting to see how government integrity. Look at Taiwan's way down there, but Denmark's way up there for government integrity. Tax burden. You can see that Denmark has a huge tax burden. That's why they're clear down here. Government spending. Denmark's, all over the place. Fiscal health. The United States. Look at that. They're headed down. I'm not exactly sure why, but they're all down there. And then here we have business freedom. And I wonder if we put, 1995 is the earliest we're going to go on those. Monetary freedom. Interesting to see the world's getting better, but here is the economies are headed down. Freedom of trade. Now, one interesting thing to think about is there are some completely free markets in the world. So, like for instance, anything illegal is a completely free market, which means there is no regulation going on that. It's just, we're talking if you want to do something. If you want to kill a competitor, that's just the way those work in the drug trade, those types of things. Financial freedom. So you can see here. These I think it's fascinating to look at see the comparisons here. So and you can see here the United States we're throwing in here we're 25th is on the list of the freedom. It's interesting to see. Interesting to see that. Where is Mexico? Mexico. Oh, there's Mexico. 67th on the list. Interesting to see some of these other countries. Oh, where was Taiwan? Taiwan's 6th. So interesting. I just think it's fun to check these things out. I like this interactive heat map to show the different overall score, property rights. You can just see, it's fun to look at these graphs to see the difference in these different ideas in these different countries. Investment freedom, Russia is way down there. Financial freedom, yeah, I'm surprised that Russia looks as bad as China anyway. So I want to see what this looks like. Oh, that's interesting. Throughout the years, you see these different countries change. Look at the overall score. So fun things to look at. But just remember that we're in a mixed economy, and we all need to realize that there are some very strong socialism type ideas that live in our country that everyone seems to get upset when you say socialism, but it's alive and well in the United States. And well, a lot of people they make it out to be such an evil thing, but we've all benefited from the public school system and from the military. So it's hard to really say. So I just want you all to think about those things. And we'll see you here on the next module.